Sundays have always been sacred to me. It gives me a chance to spend time with my family, with my friends, to focus on my faith. And honestly, We Rest on Sundays is a platform that I've created to help you navigate the complexities of the world. I want to spend time having open, honest dialogue with mentors, friends and family, and individuals that I truly believe are exceptional. We're going to focus on love, career, marriage, parenting, and everything in between. And the primary goal here is for us to become the better versions of ourselves every single day. I want to thank you for tuning in. I'll see you on Sunday. Mia, thanks so much for joining me today. I'm super excited to have you here and grateful just for your time. And, I know your journey, your personal story. Obviously, you're my classmate. You were at Spelman, I was at Morehouse, but really just intrigued to have you share more. And I think that a lot of people will actually be encouraged and will hopefully be motivated through your journey as well to understand that you can come from a plethora of adversities and really, have a phenomenal life and be able to recover through some of those hard challenges that you navigated through. But in your own words, how would you describe who Mia Rose is?
Thank you. Thank you for having me. This is, I've been watching and following your podcast and have been inspired by the stories that have been told and the folks that have been on, and even by your own journey and a lot of the connections that I see across our journeys. So thank you for having me.
My pleasure.
I would describe myself as, I think about the rose that grew from concrete, and I think about Tupac, and I also have a business where I do leadership and adaptive coaching, and a part of that is the Adinkra symbol Aya, and it's a fern, and that fern represents endurance, and it means a plant or something that can grow in any condition. It doesn't need sunlight, it doesn't need water, it just grows. And so that's part of what I feel like I reflect is rising from concrete, enduring, being a Aya, a fern that can grow in different conditions, and being an oxymoron that makes sense, that there's concrete and there's sunlight, there has been darkness, but there's so much light and sunlight. I often call myself or refer to myself as a daughter of the sun. Even during and even despite the darkness that has been a part of my journey.
Yeah, it's good, really good. And take us more, really just through your foundational years. I personally know that you were raised in the housing projects in Chicago.
Yeah.
But what you're comfortable with, right? Like, take us through the foundational years in the beginning of your journey, and lead us into a little bit of how, into the direction of like the flower coming from the concrete as well.
Yeah. It was a pretty tumultuous journey in that my parents were teenage parents, and so I was the second of my mom's children, and she had me when she was 17. So I was number 2, and we grew up in a pretty abject environment, abject poverty, and in the housing projects of Chicago is where my most foundational years were. And my parents were impacted by the crack epidemic that was really pronounced in the 80s, and they were addicts, and it was an illness, and it was addicts in our entire community. And so what I say sometimes is that I'm a daughter of addicts, and I was raised in a chaotic community environment, as there was domestic violence. My dad was impacted by mass incarceration as he was really trying to fend for his life and fend for his children, even through his illness of addiction. It was part of the mass incarceration. My mom was impacted, both parents were impacted by domestic violence in our home. And when I say impacted, I mean there was domestic violence in our home very often. It was the way that I knew my mother was home. It's because I would hear her screaming and yelling because my father welcomed her back with blows. And so that was my childhood. And as a result of their addiction, there were times where I would wake up or be waking up at 2 and 3 and 4 o'clock in the morning with my mom or my dad going through my pockets or shaking my Bible opened, asking for money in the middle of the night just before school to feed their addiction. And that's the way that I know it's an illness, because any parent, any adult in their right mind wouldn't naturally do a thing like that. But yeah, I mean, the crack epidemic.
Yeah. So how did you, in your end, like, where did you find like the light, right? Like any light, any glimmer of hope being raised in that situation, that environment, and, the chaos, right? So what was your piece? Like what helped you really navigate that childhood and those experiences to see that like there was more?
I think I had a couple places that I went. I think what happened naturally at about 10 or 9 and 10 years old, I had an emotional safe haven, which was numbness. Like I just had to escape. And so I mentally left. And I would be in gardens. I would be in the White House. I used to tell people that when I grew up, I was going to be walking downtown with my hair straight, walking in the wind, and I'm gonna have a suit on. I would go there.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh yeah, I know women who walk in downtown Chicago. They are put together. They have on suits. Their hair is blowing in the wind, and they're going somewhere. And that's where I would leave whenever that happened in my home. Whenever there was continual trauma. But whenever I needed to leave, that was my peace. The other place I went is when I was 10 years old. I met my best friend to this day. Her name is Ashley, and she wasn't in our community. She was going to our school, but she wasn't in our community. And so I just put my arms around her, my hands around her, and I stayed really close to her family. And they were a church-going family, the entire family, the pastor to the first lady to her mom. They were in a choir, they did all the things. And so I began at 10 years old going to church every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Sunday for 2 services, almost every time. And I began to know and understand God and spirituality, and that became a way of escape. It's going to church, and then I immersed myself in school. And so those 2 environments became my safe havens. But I also was lucky enough to have a teacher, a 5th grade teacher who I'm still in contact with to this day, but a 5th grade teacher who made sure that we were in programs, and I clung to those programs. If there was a Saturday program, Upward Bound program, I was there every Saturday. If there was journalism, writing, I was there every time the doors opened. And so I found places that kept me from home, that kept me out of my environment, but that kept me doing things that felt forwarding.
Yeah, we have so many synergies. It's not even funny, right? Like, even when you brought up the family, your best friend from childhood, it's like I also gravitated towards a family and like a best friend of like, it appears to be really healthy. Like this family, and they're going to church, and they're having dinner and all the things like, which feel like they're probably normal now as an adult, but that you just didn't have in that environment is, I don't know, it's wonderful to also hear that. And then also like the emotion that you shared about, like you created, I don't want to say like these dreams, but like your own sense of like calm and reality of what you wanted down the road by envisioning the woman walking downtown Chicago, hair blowing in the wind, all of the things. I still find myself doing that today for certain aspects or facets of life or goals that I'm still chasing that I want to achieve. So it's refreshing to really hear that. But on another personal, how did you? I'm just really fascinated where it's you were in this really hard environment. Your father, at some point was in prison as well. How did you avoid one, like getting caught by the system as well yourself, right? Whether that's social services, right? Or the streets or whatever it may have been. How did you avoid those situations?
What I would attribute most to that is radical imagination, that I had to imagine my way out the environment. And I would say there was a life force in me that kept me choosing a path that was different from the one I knew. I used to say to my mom in an angry way when I was younger that she's made all the mistakes, that I can't make any. I can't afford any mistakes. And so I would figure out what the next right thing to do would be, and I would do that thing. Even if I didn't understand it, I just knew that going outside and hanging out in the building wasn't it. My mom would say to this day that people didn't know she had a second daughter because I was always gone. I was always doing something to keep me occupied. But I think part of me felt when I was younger, meaning in my 20s, I was a bit resentful to people in my life, adults in my life who knew me when I was younger, because there was no way I should have stayed in that environment. There was no way I should have been raised in that environment. That I was surprised that people didn't get me out sooner, because there was no guarantee that I would become and I would be able to have the perseverance and the mindset to make it over. There was no way I should have been raised in that environment. No way. And it's my mother's greatest pride point that her kids never got taken away, and we should have never lived in those kind of conditions. But I would say radical imagination is one of the ways that supported me in not becoming part of the system. And I would say, Ben, I'm also not void of mistakes. That I was like, I did make mistakes. I was part of, there's a story that may come up later, but I used to, I don't know if this is an admission of a crime, but I used to steal clothes from department stores. I would go in and take a shirt or take a pair of pants, and I would put it in my locker at school. Because what would happen is, because my mother was in her illness, when I come home, she would be wearing all my clothes. She didn't have clothes. She didn't buy clothes for herself. And so she would take all the clothes that I had and wear them. And so I would, any new thing, anytime somebody gave me clothes, hand me down, I would put it in my locker so that I can go to school and change clothes there, so that my mother wouldn't take it. And so that could have ended me up in a system of, like, I'm stealing at 13, 14, 15 years old. So part of it, I think people hate when I say this, but I think part of it is luck. That I was lucky enough to, like, not fall into some of the traps. The other is choice, that I was like, I see this and I see the danger in this, and I see the choices that people are making. I see people being, at a classmate was pregnant in 8th grade. I had people smoking and drinking, and I knew that was happening. And I was like, I see where that leads. And I just don't want that. I'm like eager to see what's possible in the other. Even when I didn't see it, I was eager to know what's possible if I didn't do that, since I now know where that leads. And then the other most obvious thing is spirituality and God. And I really believe that there were angels about me, I call them guardian earth angels. It feels like people were passing batons in my life to be like, you got her next? Okay, I have to go, but do you have her next? I'm passing you the baton. And so there were people and programs that just built an encampment around me to make sure I, to the best of their ability, stayed safe.
Yeah, it's good. It's funny because for a long time I used to always wrestle with this idea of, like, is it luck? Is it luck? Is it luck? Right? Like, as well, because I'm like, similar to you, we should have never been in this environment. Similar to you, we could have also been, we could have got caught in the system, and split up.
Exactly.
My sisters and I. And by the grace of God, we were not. And also for me, the point that you just shared, I didn't always have, like, the best role models or examples, but I did have role models and examples of, like, what not to do for a lot of things, right? So it was easy for me to avoid drugs and drinking in high school and college, all of the things. Like, I've never even smoked weed before in my life, because it was like, I see what can happen if you dabble in any of that. Therefore, I'm just not going to, because I know the life that I desire, and I know the life that I want to have and that I want to create for my kids and my wife, etc. So for me, I don't know. I think I've personally shied away a little bit more or came off of the luck versus like it's been intentionality and it's been asking questions and learning from, you know, one, good examples, but then also bad examples of like, I'm just not going to do that over there. But can you share more just about like your, you know, like your healing journey as well, right? And what I mean by that is like the story with your mom, you know, taking your clothes and having you these, like that comes with a lot of pain and trauma. And resentment in reality, right? And I can feel it as well when I think about my dad. It's like I'm, you know, 36 years old. I still have this level of resentment internally that I work through, whether it's therapy or whatever it may be on my end. But how do you navigate those feelings on your end, and where are you currently?
This is a very nuanced question. I want to say something though about the smoking weed piece and dabbling in any drugs. I literally have said the reason I would not ever is because some people experience it as a recreation. For me, I'm like, oh, it's a gateway to a funnel. I have no idea where it leads. I had knee surgery a couple of years ago, and I was like, oh, I have to endure the pain because I'm not going to take anything that can get me addicted. And even though my mom wasn't on drugs when she had me, she wasn't on crack when she had me, I grew up in an environment where I was nurtured in a addictive personality environment. And so I imagine that some of the behaviors I would have if I am taking something or doing something that's addictive. And so I just don't indulge. And so part of my healing journey is actively being aware of the consequences of choices. So I'm constantly aware of, okay, if you make this choice, then here is a potential consequence, and we don't know where that leads. And so though I can't control it, I can make choices that feel more aligned with the life that I'm trying to lead. So I'm really intentional and conscious about that. The other thing is, when I was 15 years old, I ran away from home. And just before I did, I told my social worker at my high school, and I said, I am going to run away. And she gave me a telephone number, and she said, you know, be safe. And I ran away from home. I was running away in order to go to church and school. I think I got no punishment. My parents used to punish me from church and school because that's the only thing that mattered to me. And so whenever I would get in trouble or have a smart mouth or talk back as a teenager, you can't go to church this week and you can't go to school this week. And so I ran away and I went to church and school. My mom she knew I would be there. She came to church and school. But what I'm pointing to in that story is, and I'm saying it with a smile, and it's really sad, honestly. It's heartbreaking. And I've been in a social worker's office since I was 15, and or a therapist, and or a counselor. When I was at Spelman, I lived in a counseling center. And so I've been in therapy or some form of therapy since I was 15 years old. That's part of it. I think the other part is I journal. This is my journal. I have journaled since I was about 10, but I have a daily practice of journaling. And when I'm not journaling, I am reading or reflecting, or I sort of have these like internal practices that support me in staying grounded. And in this season of my life, what I'm doing is slowing down. That life came at me really, really fast until I was 18, really fast. And a quick story about my journey to Spelman, I'll just say, in terms of healing, I also knew what not to tell my parents at a certain point. I started to realize that if I had told them certain things, it could potentially be taken away from me. And so when I was 12 years old, I said to my mom, I'm leaving when I grow up and I'm not coming back. And she's like, I said, I'm leaving for college and I'm not coming back. And she said, you're not going anywhere. So when I got 18, 2 weeks before going to Spelman, I said, I got into Spelman College. I am going. I've already asked my mentor. She's going to drive me down to Spelman, and I don't plan on coming back. And so part of my learning was to know what to not say to my parents so that it couldn't get taken away. I stopped inviting them I used to be a performer. I was a cheerleader, I was in plays and all those things. And because of my parents' illness, I knew if I told them and then I got in trouble later, they would take that from me. And so I just didn't tell them I had a performance after I realized that's what would happen. And so I was at the mercy of people, mentors who would come to my plays and come to my cheerleading competitions, and knowing that my parents, if I didn't pay them to come, to say, Mom, I'll give you $10 if you come to my performance. I'll give you $10 if you come to my award ceremony. If I wasn't paying them, then I wasn't telling them about it, because there was no incentive for them to let me go in the event that I got in trouble.
Yeah, to even show up.
Even show up.
Yeah. Yeah, that's, yeah, you bring me back to just, it wasn't that, right? I didn't have to pay my mom to show up to anything. It just was like, will she be there? I didn't always know. And that was I think one of the primary challenges as well. So where are you currently, just with your relationships with your parents and your mom specifically?
My mom has been sober for the last 15 years, I think. And so she's learning herself in her sobriety. I'm also learning her. And what I said to her before is that I was more comfortable with her and her addiction because I knew what to expect.
Yep.
And I knew her addiction. I knew the behaviors, the nuances. In her sobriety, I don't know her. So I'm like being reintroduced to another human being, but also as she's being reintroduced to herself. She's figuring out what she wants, what she likes, what she doesn't. And so it's hard. It's hard to figure out what our new relationship looks like. Even, I mean, you think about 15 years, that feels like a long time. I haven't been home. And so I lived in Chicago until I was 18. I went to Spelman for those 4 years. In Atlanta, moved to New York for a decade, and now I'm back in Atlanta. And so I've not spent time with the woman that is my sober mother. And so, and I'm talking mostly about my mother. My father is in the picture, and we are also cultivating a relationship. And I would just say that where we are now is we're navigating what it looks like to be in this new phase of a relationship. What it's like to be reparented or being parented as I still need mothering, and my mother is not available to mother me, and me grappling with that, but her still wanting a relationship, and me needing and wanting a relationship, but not knowing what that's like because you're not available to mother me. So what does this dynamic look like? And so we're navigating it. It's complex. There's so many parts that are also beautiful that we get to relearn and figure out with each other, and there are a lot of complexities in it.
I appreciate you sharing that more than you know, because that's probably an area where I feel super guilty. And I'm working through it for sure, but like, again, as a 36-year-old man that has kids, that has a wife, that's been with my wife for a lifetime at this point, like I don't need to be parented at this point in my life, right? Like, that doesn't mean that I know it all. It doesn't mean, that's not what I'm saying. But the however is that, like, my dad and I, we are working more on like a friendship than anything else. Because like that time frame to be fathered, like it's run its course at this point.
Yeah.
Right? And I've had mentors and other father figures in my life that they've stepped in to fill that void for me, So I think that like the balance that I'm continuously just working through and praying is like really that relationship between, my father and I, where I'm like, I will never be the person that lends you money. Like, and that's a real thing for me.
Yeah.
And I can say it as plainly as that. And like, but however, for my mom and other people, like, I will help you out. I'll do whatever it is. Because it's like, she was at least, she fought to be there when she could and when she was healthy, right?
Yeah.
Like, but during her seasons when she, was going off the deep end and just like really deep in drugs, I saw it for what it was worth, and like, it is a sickness, which you continue to reference. And drugs can really have a chokehold on individuals to where they are just operating in the space that they think makes sense for, their environment, their life. And a lot of times, like, they are running and fleeting from the realities of life. And the minute that I recognized that, I was like, oh, okay, I got it, right? Like, this is just really hard right now. This is a single woman raising 3 kids that's poor, doesn't have anything, is losing jobs, all of these things. Like, this is a hard life.
Yeah.
Her best friend, her brother killed himself. She is navigating
wow.
these things where it's just complex. And yeah, so that's why I appreciate you, one, just sharing that perspective and really answering that question. But that makes me also want to ask you, so how are you standing up boundaries right now with?
Oh God, yeah, that's good. You made me think about survivor's guilt, which I experienced a lot of in a few years ago, longer than that. About 10 years ago, I decided to backpack through Europe. I quit my job. I had working as a dean of students. I think at that time I was making $92,000, the largest amount of money I've ever seen in my life. And the question I continue to ask myself is, how do I continue to be a good steward of what I'm gifted and what I've worked for and been intentional about? And how do I also have fun and be present for my life? To your point about addicts running and fleeing and not being available, that same thing was true about me. Though I wasn't an addict, a drug addict, I wasn't present for my life because I was always on the go. I was running from that environment. I was running. All I used to remember saying is, I never want to be poor again. I never want to be poor again. So in that, I was running away from something versus running towards something. And so I had to get clear about, well, that's what you don't want. And got it. What do you want? And so I decided to backpack through Europe to, what I thought I was going to do was like learn other people's stories of adversity, et cetera, et cetera. And it was also a gift to myself to be like, oh my gosh, I want to explore what it means to travel and trust my intuition and learn about who I am without all the noise about what people want from me. But what I discovered is I took 2 bags with me, a backpack and a rolly bag, a small rolly bag. I had the most luggage that I could carry through survivor's guilt. And it was the heaviest thing that I took with me. I remember my grandmother saying, how the hell do you get to travel through Europe and gallivant while we're trying to pay phone bills? And I couldn't get that out of my head. And she was also like, and I want to go to bingo. So if you got extra money, send me to bingo. And I'm like, well, geez, what do I do with what I feel like I've earned, what I feel like I get to give myself that I couldn't give the 10-year-old Mia? And so I navigated. So I was supposed to go a year. I stayed 3 months and I was like, oh, it's too heavy. Like, it's too much of a burden to stay and try to stay here a year knowing that my family is suffering. But I also came to a point where I was like, oh, I am unable to lend money to my parents. I'm unable to lend money when my grandmother was living to my grandmother because it wasn't about they were asking for like $20 here, $50 there, and I could have. The problem is what it was taking from me in terms of value, not in terms of the dollar amount, but in terms of what it was taking from me inside. I was like resentful, I was sad, I was angry, I was hurt, that I kept feeling like I was being taken from versus people also being available to pour. Just check on me and see how I'm doing. Let your next text be, hi, thinking about you, versus your next text being 3 months later, 3 weeks later when you need another $100. And so the boundaries were hard to set up in the beginning because it's like, well, if you're making $92,000 and we're trying to pay this or that, why aren't you giving money? Why aren't you, taking your sister out? Or why aren't you, and I had to realize that I am not anybody's savior, that I am here to save myself. Like, I am not their savior, and I have to trust that they can take care of themselves, that we'll figure it out, and I can help them figure it out. I was telling my siblings that if you need help going to cosmetology school or to barber school, I can help you pay for that. But I'm not sending money back for, my grandmother would say to me, I need money for weed. Like, I need money for bingo. And I was like, oh yeah, I don't have your recreational money. So that was like, those were physical boundaries. But then there are emotional boundaries. Recently, I said to my mom that when she calls, my request is that she starts with something that's going well in her life, or something that she's excited about, or asking me a question about me. Because what the calls had become was all about sort of what's happening that's going awry. And it would like shift my emotional state. It would shift me in ways that I would be destabilized and not grounded, and it wasn't forwarding for me. And so I also asked her to give me a preview. Hey, I want to tell you something about what's happening with your brother. I want to tell you something about this happen, and then let me decide if I'm available for that. Because sometimes I'm not. I'm in my own emotional crisis. Something is happening with me that you may not even be aware of or available to. But then you're dropping yourself on me, and that doesn't feel fair. And so she's been able to acquiesce. And the times that she isn't, I'm able to say, hey, I actually have to hop off. I don't even engage in like you're doing the thing. Hey, I have to hop off because that's for my like emotional integrity that'll have me being okay tomorrow in my life that's in Atlanta and not in Chicago. But I'm responsible for me now. And so I have to be responsible for my little girl and reparenting myself. And so I try to be intentional around boundaries. I don't always get it right. Sometimes I over enforce and then it feels like too much distance and I feel disconnected or untethered in some way. And I realize I can shift or renegotiate boundaries with myself and with family. And other times it feels like the healthiest way I can create those boundaries to keep the relationship going, because I want the relationship. And so it's like what boundaries need to be true in order for the relationships to continue to exist.
Yeah, I could park there for an eternity, especially because the survivor's guilt, survivor's remorse, however you want to label it, is real.
Yeah.
Like it is. I don't think I've been home in 2.5, 3 years. Mm. And the last time I was there was for back-to-back funerals. And before that, I couldn't tell you before then, right? Like, because the stress and the anxiety that comes with even just going back to where I was birthed is like over, it's immense. And you're going and I'm not saying that people are vocalizing these expectations, but it's like I'm taking the entire family out, right? Like, and all these things and you know, and it comes at a point where it's like, okay, something has to give, and it's either going to be my mental health or like some of these relationships.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm not going to break. Like I've already been through too much to break over here. Therefore, like I have to put some of you in certain boxes. Yeah. And similar to what you were just saying, it's the boundary box for me, right? Where again, like one big boundary for me is I'm not lending money to my father. Mm-hmm. Not in this season of my life, probably not for a while. And a lot of times it's like, if money is going to family, I have said to myself, that's not a loan. Mm-hmm. If I give, it's done. Yeah. Because I'm not going to chase you down. I'm not going to ask you for it. I'm not, none of that. Yeah. That means that I'm okay with gifting this to make sure that, again, my mental health is in the space where it needs to be. Yep. You know, so I appreciate you just sharing that perspective as well, because I think it's very insightful and it makes me not feel crazy as well. But
can I share one quick thing?
Of course.
To your point about going home and the city itself representing something for you, I'm working on a book called Apology Letters, and I've written in the manuscript, I've written letters from people and places that I'm like, if you could, I would like for you to apologize, and here's what I imagine that apology would sound like. Mm. And so even though, for example, my father can't give me the apology that I know I need and deserve, I've written a letter from him to me and what that apology might sound like if he were to give it to me. In the same way, I've written a letter from Chicago to me to say, I know, the Chicago starts and says, like, I know we don't have the best relationship and I understand why. And here's what I want to say to you, Mia. And so in these letters, I'm sort of giving myself what I need, even if the people and places aren't able to. And I think that's a gift that we can give to ourselves. If people aren't able, willing, available to give us the apologies or recognize the pain or the hurt that they've caused, I can give it to myself from you. I can take myself through that radical imagination exercise and say, what would my mother say if she can give me the most heartfelt and sincere apology? What would that sound like? What would I need to experience and feel from her?
Yeah, that's it's really powerful, and I hadn't even thought about that. I mean, I think there are so many times where I can be on the phone with a family member, and they are saying all the wrong things, and it's everything other than I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Because my thing is that like, you just tell me you're sorry, I will feel hurt, and I'm like, okay, we're good. We can move past this.
Yep.
But it like, so many, you just mentioned I'll never get the apology from my father, right?
Yeah.
Like, and I feel the same way. The apology that I feel like I don't want to say deserve, maybe that's too strong of a word, but desire is what I will say. The
Desire, worthy of, need.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's please let me know when the book is coming out, because I think it's going to be exceptional. More and more people probably need to have a practice like that as well when it comes to journaling. If you have dealt with, trauma like that as well. I've heard you personally say, that your 10-year-old self is still, living on the dreams, like future Mia. Where are you currently, like with your dreams, with your life, with that vision?
Yeah, living on the dreams and the prayers. They would call me a prayer warrior in my church because I would be with the deacons. I would be with whoever is praying. I want to be praying, and I was praying about this version of me. And about that age, I used to say, in addition to walking downtown, my hair blowing in the wind, I used to say, I want to be Ricky Lake when I grow up. I want to be Ricky Lake. Do you remember Ricky Lake?
Yes, yeah.
That was my girl. Oprah wasn't on at the time I was home, and so there was Ricky Lake, and I was like, I want to do that. And so,
and she was on. We didn't call it. It was basic TV.
Yeah, regular TV.
Yeah,
Like, didn't need cable, didn't need a thing.
Yeah.
There was Ricky Lake, and I was like, that is what I'm gonna do when I get older. And so I became an adult, and I was like, wait, how do you sign up to be a talk show host? Like, where are the jobs? Where do I apply? And what I realized is that I had to create it. And so I actually had gotten a severance from a job, and I used that severance to start a talk show that's called The Audacity Show, where in the beginning I was interviewing people about their lives and how they've overcome adversity. And then that turned into people saying, like, well, what's your story? Like, how do we know more about who you are? And so I started another version of that called The Audacity to Curate a Life You Love, and how I've been curating a life that I love in every choice and every intention that I have. How am I curating the life that I am in love with? And that's one thing that I'm doing is the talk show. And my most recent season is an interview with my mother, where it's connected to the book. It's a big apology letter where we're exchanging apologies. And I'm holding grace and space for her as she navigates her own apology to herself even. So that's one thing that I'm up to. I'm also, by training, I'm an educator. I was a principal for a little bit. I worked with principals in leadership development and organizational culture. And I've worked at education nonprofits around organizational culture and belonging. And I'm doing leadership coaching and story coaching for people to tell their own stories and write their own stories. And so I do some of that. But my favorite part of my life is that I get to rest, and that my life, I wake up to silence because I've created it that way. I wake up to, I go to sleep to sunsets because I've created it that way. Like the sun sets in my window every night. And yeah, my favorite part of my life is that I don't have to hustle. I don't have to fight for my life anymore. But I remember I was at a payphone, and I used to pretend that that it was broken and that I lost a quarter inside in order to hustle money from people that was walking by. I would be like, oh my gosh, I just lost a quarter. Can you all give me a quarter? Do you have 50 cents? I'm going to use the phone. And I would use that money for lunch money. I would use that money to go wash clothes. And so my favorite part of my life right now is knowing where my next meal is coming from my favorite part of my life is being able to be in the stillness and the peace of my own body and not having to fight for my life, but to be in serenity with myself.
Yeah. Yeah. There's so much alignment between your story and my journey as well, especially that you took me back, even just thinking about the payphone. Like, more times than not, we didn't have a working phone in our
Yeah.
apartment.
Yeah.
And we would go next door to this sandwich place and wait by the payphone for like an aunt or uncle to call during a certain time period so they could like come and pick us up and potentially take us grocery shopping or just go to their house for like the weekend. So yes, like hearing like the more of the life that you have created and the peace that you have currently is powerful because like it takes so much work just to
Yeah.
get there and just to continue to keep your head above water, you know, because like that trauma doesn't go away. You can go to therapy every single day,
100%.
your entire life, the rest of your life if you want to. But you still, every once in a while, are going to have that dream where you're like, oh my God, like you're going to feel like you were right back in Chicago. And, you know, that doesn't always feel great. But again, I think to your point, creating this life of like balance, peace, sunset, sunrises, all of the things, I think it's really important and really cultivating this life that you desire helps
Yeah.
drastically, you know, as time, you know, continues just to go on. But how's your history really impacted the choices that you make today?
They impact everything. I think that my history is, if there was a tattoo that was in my body, it would be a tattoo of my history because to your point, it doesn't go away. It's etched in a part of who I am. I don't lead with this story. I don't lead with the hardship of my journey, but I do intentionally support places that have young people who had similar journeys to me. And so at Spelman, for example, I go back and I work with their first gen program. At Cornell, I work with the Black women student program there. And so I've gone and been a speaker and a workshop facilitator at Cornell University for the past 3 or 4 years. Delaware State University, their first gen through Braven, which is a really dope program. But through Braven, I've been a leadership coach for their first gen students. And so that's my way of not forgetting and to continue to ground in that there are people who are still experiencing things that I experienced. And I wish it not on my favorite enemy. Like, not on my favorite enemy do I wish that experience on. Nobody should have to endure that. Nobody. And I'm saying this also to my 10-year-old self, not even you. Nobody should have to endure that. And so it impacts how I make decisions about my dreams, like what dreams take precedence. I was on an achievement journey. I was like, this is next, this is next, this is next, this is next. And I realized that I wasn't present for my life, that I wasn't experiencing myself. And I decided actually in May to resign from my job because I was like, wait, you were running from something. My first 18 years of my life, I was like in what felt like hell. The next 18, which was, I just had a birthday. And so the next 18 was this June. And I was like, okay, you're out. Statistics say that only 13% of people who live in continual poverty ever make it out, and only 8% of those people stay out. What I said to myself at 36 was, you're out. You're out. So now what do you want? What do you want to create? And I've given myself 3 months of a sabbatical to say, you get to rest, you get to clear your mind, you get to decide what is it that you want from this place, not from running, not from your younger self, but from this place. What do you want? And so to answer your question, my history is helping me decide. It's helped me get to this point, and now I'm deciding from this point what I want now that I'm on different ground. I'm on ground that I helped to reparent and help to raise and help to cultivate. Now what do I want to create in the world?
What gives you that confidence, one, and two, like, what is the inner voice that you hear? I think statistics also show 15% of people ever make over 6 figures. Like, you've been there, you've checked that box, all these things, and now you just walked away from a high-paying job.
Yeah.
And you're giving yourself a 3-month sabbatical to figure out what you want. Like, what are you saying to yourself internally to even make that decision and to have the confidence and the faith in doing so?
Yeah, that's a good question. I was making, I was in 6 figures. I was making like 155 at a job, and then with surplus probably up to 200. And I walked away. I even stopped doing the business part of it because I really need even creative rest right now. And what I'm saying to myself is that I trust this inner voice. I trust that I'll always land on my feet. I trust in that the gifts they don't stop. Like the work, what I did was who I am. And so it doesn't go away because I'm resting. Like what's mine is mine. And if I don't rest, then I feel like I'm sacrificing something. If I'm not listening to my internal voice in my body to say, I actually need you to stop now. You're out of breath. You can stop and just pause. And so I work out. I see on your Instagram that you also work out pretty early in the morning. I have a trainer that comes to my building at 5 a.m. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And in between each set, I have a 60-second rest. And in the same way, I've been running and running and running and trying to create this life. And now it's time to rest. And so this is my 60-second, 3-month break of sit down. Like, you have permission to rest. And so I don't know what the other side of this looks like, but I can guarantee myself that we're going to continue to curate a life that we love on the other side of it. I don't know what that means yet. I'm not even thinking about it. I said I won't think about it until the end of July, but I'm trusting myself. I'm trusting that all things always work together for my good, as they have and as they will continue to.
Yeah, it's good. It's really good. And it's a good internal challenge that I need to work through as well for myself, because like I can go. And that's exhausting, you know, like we all have, you know, like we have a battery, right? So like, where's your battery? Is that 10% or is it on 90, right? Like, and when are you recharging your battery?
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
as well. So that's a really, really good challenge. Can we talk a little bit about Spelman? And we didn't talk through this question, so hopefully it doesn't catch you off guard or anything. So I'll correlate it to myself first, and you agree or disagree. But for me, coming from this traumatic environment and poverty, all these things, and getting to Morehouse, it was a culture shock for me. And people are at times are surprised when I say that. They're like, "You were around all black people? Like, what do you mean?" I'm like, no, that's not it. I was around the Huxtables. I was around middle class. I was around maybe a handful of kids that were poor. And even within that, we didn't talk about it, you know, like, because we weren't confident in it. We were scared and embarrassed.
Yeah.
You know, if I'm being honest with you. So how was that experience for you? Because for me, even, you know, again, I was next door at Morehouse, but Spelman was like a 2, 3, 4x multiplier of intimidation, if I'm being honest with you, where I'm like, oh, like every single one of these girls feels like they have it all put together and their lives are like, I'm going to do this. This is the direction I'm going. Like, it felt like everything was just really well established from freshman year on. So like, what was that experience for you coming from this traumatic environment in Chicago, being poor, dealing with all these, you know, adversities? How did you navigate it?
I mean, having parents who were addicts who didn't even drop me off at school, and watching people's parents come drop them off, take them shopping, do the things, come throughout their journey. It was hard. It was really, really hard. And I had to decide over and over again, not just when I arrived on campus, but I had to decide, who are you going to be while you're here? And there were a couple of times where I was like, just take me home. Just like, I want to go back. My siblings are home. I also feel a deep sense of survivor's guilt, even in that, being at Spelman. It's like, what are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing here at Spelman? And that was really hard to navigate. I think that's why I stayed in the counseling center. I didn't lead with poverty. Like, I wore it as a badge if I shared where I come from with people and they weren't able to guess it, they were surprised. It's like, yeah, well, I'm covering well enough. I'm healing well enough, or I'm able to navigate in this environment well enough, this middle class environment. I mean, Ben, I used to look up, what do you do if you're middle class? What are the behaviors of middle class people? What are the things that they buy? What stores do they go? I was still shopping at Dollar Tree and Family Dollar for food, it's like, what do middle class people do? What do they wear? Where I was like Googling those to like, probably up until like 5 years ago, I was still Googling that. Like, how do I know if I'm upper middle class? Like, what are they thinking? What are they reading? Right? Like, I'm Googling that. And I don't talk about this often, but being a have-not at Spelman was hard because there are people who, they don't even know that language. What does that even mean, that you don't have $10 to do X? What does that even mean? Call your mom, right? My parents never, ever, ever set foot on Spelman College the 4 years that I was there. Not even for graduation. Devastating. That I was like looking into an audience of 20 people who came to support me, and not one was my mother or my father on graduation day. And so the way that I navigated that at Spelman was, I took it year by year, honestly. And people had all these like financial problems. And, you know, when you think about spring break where people went and they went to Miami, I'm like, where are you getting money to go to this place? And I had 2 jobs on campus and was still trying to, I had a work study job and a general college job. But I had a mentor who, his mother, older woman, found a liking to me, and she said to him, she told him all about me. He reached out to me. He was the father of 2 young women who went to Spelman, and he reached out and said, how much is your second job paying you? And I told him, and he said, well, quit that job and I'm going to give you that amount every 2 weeks. And I want you to focus on your studies because it's going to be really important that you make it through Spelman. And so I felt so grateful. What's coming up for you? I felt really grateful.
I think people in those like situations, it just takes like one person to believe. Like just one. And like, give me the shot, see me,
Yeah,
and I will take it from here. I will not waste this opportunity.
promise.
So hearing that, it's like, you knew exactly what you needed to do after that. I can now step away from the second job and just focus on my books.
Yeah,
And that's going to help me eat. It's going to help me feel like I'm a little bit closer to being like a traditional student.
yep,
And I'm going to feel a little bit more safe and like I can breathe. And God, I just took like a rock off of my shoulder.
yeah,
So I don't know. You know, I think people that just see individuals in that environment and they're just willing to help and to serve, that's life changing for you.
yeah.
You know, and that's really why, you know. So I appreciate you sharing that. And I didn't want you to stop your story, but yeah, it's, you know, it's important. We just need more individuals like that are here to serve and like really can see the kids in that environment that feel just unseen and
Yeah.
like without, and like it's hard. Like I think HBCUs are so important and
Yeah.
needed. I don't know what my life would look like if I did not go to an
Oh
HBCU.
my gosh.
And similar to you, those situations were difficult because you're in that space with kids that have their parents, or at least have a parent that can help and provide, and you're like scraping it together to like go get ramen or like whatever, and I'm like, or you're like negotiating with friends, you're like, I don't really got it right now.
Yeah.
There's one friend that you're safe with, and that friend is like, they don't want to be make you feel more uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So like, hey, it's cool, like I got it, because like their parents are doctors or whatever it may
Yes.
have been.
Yes.
So yeah, I don't know. I just think it's really neat that individual, saw you and helped, and yeah.
Also, the identity piece around having friends whose families and parents were doctors and lawyers and all these things, and not wanting to divulge that my mom has never worked a day in her life, and we're on Section 8 at home. And I used to say to the folks in the financial aid office, I can't go home. Like, I don't have a home to go back to. And so for spring break, another woman who a friend of mine, her mother introduced me to, she would help me get my stuff off campus and put it in her garage. And I'm like, when I look back at my Spelman journey, I'm like, how lucky, how blessed, how incredible was that there were people who, as I said, passed that baton. It's like, oh my gosh, like what would I have done with my stuff for Christmas break when it was time to move out, for summer break when it's time to move out? Like, I didn't have a place to put that stuff. I didn't have a home to go back to. And so I got internships every year at Spelman. So I was like, I cannot go back to Chicago, y'all. I cannot go back into those conditions. And so part of me hid. So I was like hiding on campus in plain sight. I didn't want people to know that, yeah, I have parents who are addicts and you would never get to meet them on this campus. Like, I am my mother. I am my mother here. If you need to talk to somebody, come talk to me. And I think the other thing about being at Spelman was that I admired those people. I didn't have to Google anymore. Like, there was a way that was like, oh, that's what middle class people do. Oh, they're going to do that, or these are the kinds of conversations. So I was like a student to the students at Spelman who had the lives that I can only dream of. And I just vowed that I would, if I ever had a child, that I would be the parent that their parents were to them. Because I mean, they got care packages, they got letters, I was like, oh my gosh. And I actually started working at the mail center as part of one of my jobs at Spelman, and I would just see all of it come in. And so what I did once was I took a check. I used to save my checks and not cash them. They hated it. But I took money from one of my checks and I would send myself something to Spelman, and I'd be like, oh, I got a gift for but like, sometimes I felt fraudulent. It's like, how the hell did I end up at Spelman College? How? And the other part of that is I felt so incredibly blessed because I don't know where I would be if I hadn't gone to college, and if I hadn't gone to Spelman College, and if I hadn't trusted the journey and hadn't stayed there. But as a result of that, my life it was like my incubator to the rest of my life. It was literally the choice that changed the entire trajectory of my life. It was saying yes to Spelman College.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you anymore.
Yeah.
And a little what you're hitting on is like the imposter syndrome,
Yeah.
And I think I am now to the point in my life where I'm like, I'm always going to have a little of that, because if I'm being honest with you, even in my corporate job and what I do, I know that I'm good. I know that I'm smart.
Yeah.
I know that I work hard, very hard. Like,
Yeah.
those 5 a.m. workouts it's like, no, I need to like get some of this out before
Yeah.
I can step into this business.
Exactly.
Because I am wired, and I'm good at the work. But however, though, is that I still deal with imposter syndrome, and that self-doubt can creep in from time to time of like, do I really belong? You were, you made lighthearted about like Googling the middle class thing. I did the same thing. I was Googling literally like silverware. So when you sit down at a nice establishment, What's the order of operations
Yeah.
of the silverware that you grab?
Yeah.
Where do you place the napkin when you
Yeah.
sit down, when you're wearing a suit? Like all of these things, I had to learn and teach myself.
Yeah.
It was through Googling, through observing like
Exactly.
higher class people and mentors,
Yep.
and to understand that it's a language. But now, even now to this day, it's like, again, like that imposter syndrome can still kick in some of those settings where I'm like, the best days that I have is where I'm telling myself, stop.
Yeah.
Like, you're safe, you're fine, you don't have to worry about your next meal.
100%.
Your family's taken care of, they're provided for, they are happy, they're healthy, you are doing a good job. It's all good.
You just said something about family, and I want to go back to a question that you asked earlier. The other way my childhood is still impacting me is, and I guess I'm asking you this, I am scared as hell to have a family. And I don't think I've ever admitted this out loud, that I'm like, well, what if that's in my bones? Like, what if that environment is what I knew, is all I know? And so my identity shifts when I become a parent. Imagine I'm becoming a parent who's like, you know, I don't even know. So I think what I have control over is me. It's like, okay, you have curated this life, but to have a wife, somebody who you're accountable to, responsible, to have children who you're responsible to raising, I'm like, that kind of identity shift, I don't even know who I'll become in that. And I think that there's a part of me that's scared to say that I'm terrified to be tethered to someone, because I have never had that. I was never tethered to my mother. I was never tethered to my father. So I don't have the safety of that embrace. And then to have people that you're responsible to for the rest of your life. What's that like?
Yeah, it's
Coming from that environment.
Yeah, it's when I found out that India was pregnant, I was like, oh my God, like what is gonna happen here? All of the things internally, right? I was very happy because we created this life that we wanted, and that we desired for. But similar to you, I was like, is it in me? Like, is it?
Because I've never been fathered or mothered. How do I know how to do that?
How do I know how to do it, right? And for me, I was like, where I landed was, you figured out everything else up to this point. What makes you think that you cannot figure this out as well? It's impossible. It's impossible. If you've been able to make it out of the projects, out of Section 8, out of being, unparented, father in prison, parents addicted to drugs, nobody showing up for you. You, for a fact, you can do this. Not only can, you must do it. There's no option not to do it. God didn't put people like you and I on this earth to navigate all of these adversities and these challenges to only be a good person for ourselves. Right? Like, that's the selfish part of it. I must be a father. I must be a husband. I must lead this family, this unit, and in my community more, because I understand how hard life is. So I'm going to be the light for everybody else that experience has been today. It's very easy for me to be kind every single day because I know what it is like
100%.
to deal with negative people.
Yes.
So we have to be the light every single day to everybody, our families, to our communities, to our friends. Like, that's the expectation. That's the deal that I've made with God.
100%.
So for me, I don't ever second guess it. You shouldn't second guess it either. You shouldn't be scared of it. You should lean into it and say, you know what? It's in me. What's in you is to lead and to be the light that you are.
Yeah.
On a family. And trust me, it is not, and it like, the hardest days that I have is like, maybe my wife is irritated because I was super messy and all my stuff was over here in disarray, all these things. And like, we can pull to the side and I'm like, hey, look at what we've been able to create. We are in a house. This house is filled with love. These kids are healthy. They are happy. They are joyful. Like, we don't worry about these bills.
Yep.
Like, we are safe. I'll pick my socks up and look. You know what I'm saying? So that's the part where don't second guess that.
Yeah.
That's why you went through all of that.
Yeah. That's interesting. That's a powerful, I'm sure people would say to me, they have said that, some version of that to me, but it's different hearing it from someone who had a very close, similar experience as me growing up and is now doing it also, parenting, partnered, and all the things. And so it's different because I'm like, if I break open, y'all, am I going to be able to put myself back together? Like how there was a hard time for me in therapy. Wow. It was hard for me in therapy for a while because I would only go so far in therapy because I was like, oh no, but if I fall apart, I need to know that I'm able to put myself back together. Because you don't know where I've been. You don't know what it's like. And so can I put myself back together again? So yeah. And I think my therapist would say this is a breakthrough happening, that I would often ask him over the last 10 years. I've had the same therapist for 10 years now. I would say, like, what do you think is next for me? What do you think I should do next? Like, should I become a lawyer? Should I do this? And he's like, what about family? And I'd be like, no. Like, the things I can control, though. And I think what's true is that I haven't let myself want it because of my own fear and trepidation about even abandonment. Like, what does it mean if, like, how do I become tethered? Not even somebody abandoning me, but how do I actively become tethered to someone if I've never known how to be tethered to someone? So that feels like the work in this season. Wow. That feels like the work in this season for myself, in terms of how my childhood has impacted me and learning what it's like to let myself be connected in a real and deep way, in a way that I have never done.
Yeah, it is. It is freeing. Like, at the end of the day, to have a person. My person is my wife. There's nobody on this earth that knows me better than her. She can pick up on where I am mentally, physically, emotionally by how I walk through that door. And she knows where to meet me, where to make adjustments, what to ask, what not to ask, or whatever. And if I'm being short, because typically that's when I'm like stressed, I'm quiet. Because I can get in that box if I need to get in that box.
Yeah.
But she will reach her hand out and get me out of that box. We are not supposed to do this thing alone. We're not supposed to be, no, that's not what this is about.
Yeah. Like you have a person that you can trust with you.
With everything.
Yeah.
In those moments of insecurity or self-doubt or I'm still depressed about this trauma keeps hitting me and this is the area. Or my dad called me and hit me, asked me for some money, and now I'm like, my world is rocked because I'm super annoyed because I'm like, dude, why don't you get it? And I can go and talk to her.
Yeah.
Hey, if I'm being short, I'm sorry, this is what I've been dealing with. It's not even like necessarily in that moment. It might be a couple of days after the fact. And she's like, oh, I know there was something up. I just didn't know what it was. Thank you for sharing, and blah, blah, blah. We're supposed to do this thing, I believe, with somebody.
No, that makes sense. And I can see me being that kind of person to somebody, but I'm like, how do I learn to trust somebody with all of me?
It comes with time.
Yeah.
Time and like communication, but it comes with time. I mean, it was a long time until I told India that, like, hey, I'm poor. This is what this is. But I'm gonna work, and like we won't be poor. Yeah. But I don't come from an educated background. Like, that's your family. Yeah. That's not my family. That's not what this is. Like, me and my sisters are the most educated people in our families. Right. And that's it. Yep. So I need you to, like, are you in or you're not in? Yeah. And she's like, I'm in. Like, it's all, like, I know, like, we'll figure this thing out. It's all good. You know, so I think that, like, that's I don't know, I just think it's a really good next chapter or phase to potentially focus on, similar to what your therapist has challenged you with. I think it's invaluable, the value that it brings to my personal life is what I can share. That's powerful. Yeah, thanks for asking. Yeah. My last question for you, because we covered what was next, but what would you say to 10-year-old Mia, seeing Mia today?
What would I say to 10-year-old Mia? I would first look her in her eyes and just like let us weep together. We just weep. No words, just understanding. We just weep. And I'd say, I'm so sorry that for the next 8 years, it's going to get worse. That this is just the tip of the iceberg. And the body really does keep the score. I would say to her, I'm sorry. Yeah, I think I would apologize and like tell her that this version of me is holding that version, that we're going to be okay on the other side of it, and I'll hold you through it, and I'm going to come back and reparent you, that we'll meet each other again. And what I'm doing now at 37 is I'm chatting with her, I'm writing to her, I'm writing from her to me. Like, do you still have questions? So I'm in relationship with that version of myself. I'm in relationship with the 15-year-old version of myself who didn't get to learn how to drive from driver's ed because our house got raided, our apartment got raided, and I missed 5 days and I wasn't able to do driver's ed, and so I didn't learn to drive until I was 25. I'm in conversation with the grief around like friends are driving at 16 and 17, and I'm like, oh, I don't have a parent who has a car to teach me how to drive. And I know y'all's parents are like, what? No, we can't, she can't, and so I would say to myself, like, stay put, keep doing what you're doing. You're on the right track. And long story short, we make it out.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
Mia, I appreciate you more than you know. Just one, being as vulnerable as you were today, even more so than our first, overview call. So I just, I'm captivated by your story and your journey and who you are and how you show up. It's needed. More people need to hear your story, and more people need to experience individuals like you and know that, like, it is possible to make it out of those very, very challenging environments and hardships. And not only possible, but like, you will and you must.
Yeah.
So I'm grateful for you. Anything I can do to continue to serve or support you, know that I'm here as your Morehouse brother and your friend. So thank you.
Yeah, this is powerful, and thank you for giving me the platform to share in this way. And I agree that people get to remember that we're all coming home to ourselves, and we are the co-authors of curating the life that we love.